jamming.
Hello and welcome to Dynamite and Eddie. It's your temporary host, Michael McCormick. Joining us as always is the bold Mick Cloggerty.
Yo.
And the brave warrior Andy MacArthur.
Konnichiwa.
And today we're going to be doing something a wee bit special. Well, not that special if you tuned in last year, but we're coming at you live from the Sonic Amateur Games Expo 2021. Bit of a mainstay. It's going to be a recurring feature on our show, I think, where we're covering basically a whole host of independent games, sometimes Sonic fan games, sometimes just completely unrelated fan games, but the whole expo came from a kind of Sonic fan gaming scene, kind of celebration of the creativity and the talent of all the developers and artists and other people that have taken their time to make some games, and we're going to be playing a wee handful of them, giving them a brief demo and kind of showcasing what this thing's all about.
It's good to be back. The pandemic was, I'm sure you both appreciate, quite hard on Sonic. He wasn't able to go out and run about as much as he would like to.
Stretch his legs.
Rouge the Bat as well was posting a lot of problematic stuff on Facebook about masks and that. So I've done my own research and all that type of thing.
After 3 whole acts of living room zone, you know, you're kind of pissed off, especially when the final boss is trying to find the remote control or something. You know? But yes, this podcast we will be saying things such as fuck, bugger, shit, and maybe even the occasional C word. The C word in Scotland is actually an endearing term that we'll use.
Right,
to
we're not even 2 minutes in, and you are doing the word cunt apologia for an international list. Is this going in? I don't know if this is fucking going in.
Welcome to Dynamite and Eddie, everybody.
Yeah, if you've never heard this before, we're a retro gaming podcast. 3 Scottish guys that get together. We swap 3 retro games with each other, talk about how they feel about them in our unmistakable, unpronounceable Scottish accents, and occasionally swear and say like politically inappropriate things. But we're going to keep that to a minimum and keep the chat to the old blue blur that we all know and love so well. Yeah, as I said, we're going to be covering a lot of Sonic fan projects, but also Sage has become a bit of a haven for indie developers to show off their own projects. They've kind of broadened their reach a little bit and just made it something that's kind of open to everyone, just to get a bit of a signal boost on their own projects, which is great. We even got a special treat because I've submitted my very own game to Sage for the first time in roughly 15 years. So I'll be dedicating a bit of time at the end to talk about Caverns of the Molten God, and the demo of which you can play right now.
I've been forewarned, right? It's a great game. I've played it, but I've been forewarned to make no correlation between Caverns of the Molten God, this brand new amazing project, and Knuckles vs the Pokemon, which was a co-host's previous project here, featuring the world famous Dark Lord and other characters.
Like recent kind of insights in biology have taught us that the human body actually, within the space of about 7 years, every cell of your body has actually like died and then regenerated again. So like from a completely philosophical and scientific point of view, I'm not the same person that made Knuckles versus the Pokemon, so I can wash my hands completely of it.
Is that a very polite toilet analogy? Like you've squeezed it out through your farter and flushed it away into the...
I suppose I've kind of like metabolised it and like breathed it out into the air.
Well, I've got bad news for you, mate. I came in with a wee net and I fucking caught it like a wee fish, and I've got it in my brain and it's not going anywhere.
Put it in a jar like one of the fairies for Zelda. I guess another way of putting it is that I'm actually now old enough to be the father of the person that developed Knuckles versus the Pokemon.
Jesus Christ, that's scary, man. Don't say that.
On this point, actually, I hope the listeners and yourselves will forgive this slight diversion. I was wondering if we could discuss what I probably consider maybe the biggest Sonic news in years.
Yes, of course.
Which is that they've managed to fucking make Knuckles cool again. Brought in Idris Elba. He's going to fucking voice him in the next film.
What a fucking coup that is, man. I was like, if you listen to like a previous episode of this, and yeah, another apology for us being old farts. Our opinions of Sonic are probably quite set in their ways. We reviewed the Sonic film, we didn't really like it, but all it took was that one tweet from Idris Elba saying, I'm going to be voicing Knuckles to
Oh,
make
man.
like this is my most anticipated film. Like, fuck your June.
Well, the good thing is that Knuckles has been restored and saved, right? It came to the point where Knuckles became this buffoon character, where he was always like the butt of the joke. He was always like the fucking, like the, what do you call him, out of Seinfeld and fucking
Kramer.
that 70s show. Aye, he was always like that, like the comedy thing. But it ended up Knuckles fucking spiraled out of control and became the Do You Know the Way and all that, and fucking, it just was a fucking disaster, right? Came to the point where the fucking memification of Knuckles became what the younger generation's idea of what Knuckles was.
Exactly. So this is why I was into Idris Elba, because Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Knuckles is at the fucking height of his power, right? He is the coolest thing you've ever seen. You just look at him. And then as you say, became a meme character. And I believe with the recent acquisition of Idris Elba for Project Sonic 2, they are looking likely to cement Knuckles as cool again.
Aye, if he's anything like fucking Luther or something, he'll be like absolutely terrifying, unhinged. But I also think Idris Elba doesn't take himself too seriously as well, so there'll definitely be a bit of humour in his portrayal too.
Than the rest of them, the best of them, tougher than leather. You can call me Knuckles. Unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle. I'd rather flex my muscles. I'm hard as nails. It ain't hard to tell. I break them down whether they solid or frail. Unlike the rest, I'm independent since my first breath. First test, feel the right, then the worst left. Born on an island in the heavens. The blood of my ancestors flows inside me. My duty is to save the flower from evil deterioration. Yeah, I will be the one to set your heart free, true. Cleanse yourself with them evil spirits that's in you. Streaking lights, loud sounds, and instincts are the elements that keep me going. I am fighting my own mission. Nothing's gonna stand in my way, no. I will be the one to set your heart free, true. Cleanse yourself with them evil spirits that's in you.
Right, so I think that's enough of our prerequisite ramble. So why don't we just dive into these fan games? We've got 9 games, including my very own Caverns of the Molten God at the end. We're going to kick things off with our first submission, which is Make Adventures Around the World. I figured I'd cover this one for a couple of reasons. One, it's an independent game made in Game Maker, much like my own game. It's by a solitary developer who did all his own graphics, programming and music, again, like myself. And also the main character is called Michael. So that's, feeling a lot of empathy going into this game.
A lot of Michaels on this show.
From one Michael to another, from 2 Michaels to another, actually. I think we can kind of send some positive vibes as we...
At one point we had Mick, and Mick. And...
Oh yeah, the most confusing episodes we've ever recorded. So this game is one of the kind of aforementioned non-Sonic titles, but I would argue, like a lot of the games that are shown off as the Expo, because of the community it came out of, it's definitely got a lot of kind of inspiration for the classic Sonic games. Although maybe a kind of bigger influence that may or may not be intentional was a favourite of Mick's Rocket Knight adventures.
Oh, aye. I love Rocket Knight.
Aye.
Yeah. The impression that I got from it was attempting to kind of channel that a little bit in the kind of moveset of the main character. So it's a platformer, kind of 16-bit-esque, not kind of deliberately trying to look like a Mega Drive game, but it's got that kind of feel to it, with kind of the resolution, the parallax scrolling and everything. The graphics have got quite a kind of handmade sort of look to them, which I'm using as a kind of, in a positive sense of the word, and kind of pixel art, but with a few kind of nice little touches. There's as I say, the kind of parallax scrolling that you get in a classic Sonic game. You've got various layers going on, moving at different speeds. the main kind of level that you play in the demo was a kind of rain-soaked city. And I quite liked how there was like sort of rain effects going on. There was like 3 different layers of rain. You could like see some rain in the distance, and then in the foreground, and then little puddles on the ground. So just little kid touches like that made the graphics stand out a little bit. Quite liked as well how the buildings you pass have a kind of transparency effect. You can see through the windows and stuff. So some stuff that you wouldn't get in your kind of standard 16-bit games. The overall impression for this one, even though it's a modern game, made for say 2021. It kind of harkened back to the games that I think me and Andy would have played, kind of click team games from back in the day. It's not got a kind of super kind of professional sheen on it, but you can definitely see the kind of the love and the heart and soul into developing it. I'm thinking like Andy of like the kind of Neo Sonic games, for example, that we covered last year.
Got a bit done with their heart rather than the coding expertise. There's a lot of kind of passion behind it.
Aye. Yeah, definitely. You can I think you can kind of see that, like inspired by the kind of classic Sonic in 16-bit games in a way that a lot of those games back in the day were. So the main kind of mechanic in this is kind of standard platform, but there's also like a kind of dash ability. That's kind of what reminded me of Rocket Knight Adventures. So you can hold in a button and then kind of charge up a dash, which then propels you forward into enemies. But you can also kind of like control the direction in which you can dash, so you can like hold the up button while you're charging, that'll rock you up in the air.
You go diagonal and ping off the walls and all that, like Spark stuff.
Yeah, well, there's none of the kind of bouncing off walls, but you can kind of like go like up, left, right, and diagonal and stuff. And I think the kind of platforming challenge would be like to kind of like be able to use that in midair and use that at the kind of right moment and stuff. So I think there's kind of potential there, and definitely like, Rocket Knight Adventures would be the game to study, I think, if you wanted to kind of rip off a few ideas for level design, that sort of thing.
So naturally, it would be fair to say that at Sage, platformers are your bread and butter, right? People are generally, they're trying to make, but not always 16-bit style platformers, but a lot of retro style platformers, or inspired by retro style platformers.
Used to be 100%, but
it's making me realise that I'm kind of shite at them. I see when I go back and play the old ones on the Sega, like Rocket Knight or Dynamite Heady or the Sonic games or whatever, I think I can get by the levels because I've played them 300 times. See, trying to beat anything for the first time in terms of platformers, I'm pretty bad.
Is this the thing where they say like the kind of like professional gaming scene like StarCraft and League of Legends, that is dominated by like 19-year-olds because like the synapses in your brain literally start dying at that point. Like you just like you literally like can't react in the same way you could at that age.
See, I've always heard that, right? I've always heard that like esports, it's kind of like, what you call that, Olympic sport that young women do, gymnastics, whereby you've got to do it at a certain time. But man, I play FIFA a lot, right? And I absolutely spank people at FIFA. I'm 32, man, half deed.
Andy's on the mic going, you fucking wee 10-year-old dickhead.
No,
I've still got it. I've still got it, you wee prick.
I see. I was enjoying this game. I think it's a short kind of demo. It's only the one level, although you can access a map screen. I'm not entirely sure if you're meant to. That might have been left in by accident, but it appears that there's going to be a kind of overworld map that can take you between levels. The fact that the game's got make adventures around the world suggests a kind of global, sort of globe-trotting theme to the game.
Where is the playable stage set? Sorry, I know you said it was like a rainy cityscape, but on the world map, for instance, does it say that that's like Chicago? Do you think it's going to be like there'll be like an Egypt level and a North Pole level in that? Because that's pretty Sega when I think back to it. A lot of games kind of gave you like round the world themes and their levels.
Well, I think you're probably specifically talking about Donald Duck's Quackshot here, which I would definitely like to see kind of.
Not even just Quackshot, man. Look at Sonic. Sonic goes to very cold environments. He goes to deserts. He goes to jungles.
Aye,
it is. Yep. Space. It's everywhere.
Yep.
Outer space. A labyrinth. A lava marble zone. Everywhere.
Here's a bit of lore, right, for the old Sonic kids, because this is going to be like all our DJ crew have all turned off by now, right? So here's one for the Sonic kids, right? So Sonic, right? anthropomorphic blue hedgehog cartoon, fast as fuck, fastest thing alive, no less. How come he can't breathe underwater, but he can breathe in the vacuum of space?
I mean, have you ever taken a hedgehog to the vacuum of space? You don't know that they can't breathe there.
Maybe if you paint it blue, man. You know, I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure hedgehogs have drowned before, but I don't think any hedgehog in real life has ever asphyxiated in space.
Even your man James Bond wore a fucking spacesuit, didn't he?
Well, that's filled with water.
Right. We're going. That's like kind of inverted idea.
Aye. Is it a plot hole? Is it a fact about hedgehog biology that we're not yet familiar with? I'm not entirely sure.
Hedgehogs also, they don't walk around on fucking 2 legs and wear trainers and they kind of spin dash.
There's a concept called the suspension of disbelief.
Right.
You need to take into account.
Okay.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of kind of good concepts that could be advanced upon. Things I would maybe suggest to take on board. I would have liked a little more like feedback when you're kind of like charging up your dash. Like, you know, if you hold in the button for longer, you travel further basically. I would like maybe like, you know, like an animation or a sound effect or something that kind of helps you kind of gauge, you know, how much charge you've got while you're doing that, just so you can have a bit better like control if you want to control how far you want to dash as well. Also, when you hit an enemy with it, you change direction, which launched me off platforms a good few times. So yeah, just personal preference there. That might be something to change, but the fundamentals are there. It kind of introduces all the kind of controls and ideas to you in a good way. And yeah, like the little sprite, the sprites like the save checkpoints and that, all pretty good. So yeah, I quite liked it. Shout out to the music as well. The first tune, which I kind of get out of my head, is really reminded me of like, do you remember the Bad Touch by Bloodhound Gang?
You and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals, so let's do it like they're doing the Discovery Channel.
Appropriate for like a mascot platformer, actually. Yeah, make adventures around the world. Anyone else should get it checked out.
Don't even need to go to Blockbuster, man. You can just go to Sage Expo, download it. Magic. What a fucking wonderful time we live in.
How many times are we going to mention the fact that we're in our 30s and like various oblique ways?
Oh,
guys, get yourself a Blockbuster and also go for a prostate exam.
Okay, so next up we've got Sonic Project Generations, which Andy's been playing.
Yeah, so this is a game by a developer called Biggest Leaf. Sorry I've not got your real name, mate. Probably a common theme for these games that I'm doing.
All these developers are shrouded in secrecy.
Yes, we're going to be calling you by your handles, as we HGV drivers around the country would call it.
Shout out to Phil Racco, who I completely forgot to mention, the developer of Make Adventures.
Aye, but yes, this project that I'm covering by aforementioned developer is called Sonic Project Generations. Now, most of the demos that we're doing today have like some sort of idea of like a start and a finish point. This is more of a kind of demonstration of what is going to be. We used to call this I don't know if you remember this, McCormick, but we used to call these libs back in the day, what, libraries.
No, you're getting this all wrong, right? So what this is an engine test, really. It's not quite a demo. It's not full featured in terms of it's maybe got like a level that's going to be in the actual game. It's more a demonstration of the programming and like you know how Sonic is going to control the kind of the features that the game has been programmed into the game, rather than like necessarily complete graphics and levels and stuff. What libs were. Apologies for the history lesson for that nobody asked for. Basically, like a collection of graphics.
A library of
sprites,
graphics,
a library of
assets,
kind of free resources that other people could use in their game. Sometimes people group them into like a wee like a wee mini demo game just to
Aye.
show what they would look like in motion, that sort of thing.
Aye. Well, sorry if I get my libs and my ETs mixed up. So,
Sorry, you'll be eaten alive by the fan gaming community
I know,
if I didn't
I'm
correct
sorry.
that one.
But I might as well point out that McCormick is a proper software developer, and I'm not. I just play the games. Don't fucking shoot me. But aye, this is our engine test then, and what it demonstrates is, as far as I can see, if any of you have played Sonic Generations, I don't know if the two of you have played that.
I completed Sonic Generations, it was great.
Aye, it was really, really,
I was into Sonic Generations, yeah, it's good.
aye, one of the better new Sonic games. It's sort of broken up into two halves, where you had what's known as modern Sonic levels, where it was like, would use boost to blast into his Z-axis of the screen, just go forward as fast as you can, killing things left, right and centre. And then on the other hand, you had classic Sonic, which was sort of more in line with the classic 2D experience, where it would be a A to B kind of 2D platform.
All the good
aesthetic.
bits, classic Sonic.
Aye. So
I controversially actually had the opposite opinion, which I completely didn't expect when I was going into the game. The 3D
Scum.
level,
Get off this podcast.
the modern Sonic levels in that game, they were like the ones in Sonic Adventure 2 if they were done right. Like, they had the multiple paths, they had physics that actually worked, and it was all about just kind of like a time attack, like how fast you can memorise the level and get through it. This game, Sonic Project Generations, from what I've seen in the demo at least, it's purely restricted to 2D, although it's a 3D rendered game, beautiful kind of 3D models of both your classic and your modern Sonic, but it takes place on a 2D plane. The purpose, from what I can see of this engine test, is to kind of show off the kind of differences between the modern and classic kind of iterations of Sonic and how differently they're going to control from each other in the main game. So trying to like kind of recreate what you had in the 2D levels of Sonic Generations.
Yep.
So the classic Sonic levels for me are more about kind of like momentum, kind of having the right momentum to get up ramps and to spin to make like a loop and stuff. Whereas
there's moderns more to do with like boost and things like homing attacks.
Yeah,
Kind of wee bells
it's
and
all about
whistles.
having this kind of like perfect run through the level where you're kind of constantly boosting, bouncing off things, and you're always pretty much trying to be like at top speed all the time. That's the impression I got anyway.
Got to say, man, I'm a sucker for but he's also demonstrating that he's got springs down to a T. This is made in a Unity engine for anybody that's savvy with that sort of thing, and he's sort of demonstrated that he's got loops on point. The loops seem to work well. That's one of them. And the springs as well. Springs get the perfect amount of momentum going up and down stuff. So it's definitely get a bare bones for a Sonic game. What I really enjoyed about Project Sonic Generations is in the modern side, he's actually added on some of these bells and whistles that we're talking about. He's got a homing attack.
Yeah.
He's got this pretty cool attack that is in Sonic Generations where, if you're running at a wall and there's only like a small space and you can press a button and you can actually duck and go under, but you can use your momentum to take out an enemy as well.
Like kind of slide.
Slide. He's incorporated that into it, and he's sort of got like a cool puff of smoke behind to kind of show that you're moving along at great speed. It's pretty cool, man.
There's some quite impressive kind of bells and whistles in it. He's managed to recreate some of this stuff quite well. I'm not as well versed in the kind of more kind of modern games like Sonic Colors onwards and stuff. To be honest, I'm not all that familiar with.
Colours is a fucking cracker, by the way. That's for me, of the 3D Sonics, it's possibly my favourite.
Nice one.
I've heard it's good. There's another weird move here that I've not seen in Sonic. This might be in Colours or something that I've not played, but if you jump on a spring in this engine test, right, while you're in mid-air, if you press the spacebar, which is like the action key, the jump key, you shoot out these kind of blue stars.
You get a little bit more height on your jump.
I think that's been in a couple of 3D Sonics, to be honest.
Is it?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's moves that I'm probably like not familiar with that might have been in kind of more modern Sonic ones that they're kind of new to me. And I'm going to show my age here, but the one that this really reminds me of, because it's quite modern, it's got the boost gameplay, but it takes place in a 2D plane, is Sonic Rush.
Right. Yep. For
on
DS.
Yeah, which I quite enjoyed. I don't think it's anywhere as good as the kind of classic ones, but
That was the one with the extended screen, so you could see like more of the level.
yeah,
Aye, that was quite an idea. Aye.
yeah, that had kind of had the boost mechanics, which kind of made their way into the kind of modern 3D ones, and it had like this idea of Sonic doing sort of tricks in midair and stuff like that. Almost like a kind of extreme sports, like a kind of skateboarding kind of like vibe to it.
Aye, because the Sonic Advance games had that in it too, but it had that extra button where you had like an action move, but they never really incorporated it into that series. Whereas Rush kind of took it into the Sonic Rush that kind of used that there, didn't it? So.
Colours did this thing that I was always no surprised after playing Colours. It kind of gave me pause and made me think, why did Sonic no kind of evolve this way in general? When you think of the biggest leap, or one of the biggest leaps, for Sonic 2 to Sonic 3, it's fucking more power-ups. You know, like the fucking fire shield and the bubble and things like that?
Yeah.
Sonic Colours is all centred around Sonic getting all these mad different fucking power-ups. Like, you can turn into a drill and things like that.
That's right.
It kind of made me think fucking... Aye, getting different power-ups for Sonic used to be a big part of it. It's kind of no now.
Yeah, and like it was always a bit kind of what they kind of like what you call gimmicks in old games, which is like the I'm trying to like think of an example. Like Sonic's always doing stuff like he's going through a corkscrew, or like he's jumping on that mad contraption in Mushroom Hill Zone. Like there's always weird features and gadgets that kind of make Sonic maybe move in different ways in that, and like the power-ups in Sonic Colors felt like kind of like continuation of that. Like he's always doing something new and unexpected, like when he's going through the level that you've got to take into account.
In Generations, probably my favourite, the one that stands out to me, my favourite level in that is actually the Sonic Colors one. The one where you start off in like a beautiful kind of backdrop of a kind of heavenly grassland with all different colours and flowers, and then as the level moves on, it starts to become more sinister and dark. You end up on like the big spaceship and all that, and you end up getting the pink power up, where you can use it to move platforms but climb walls as well and stuff like that. It's quite good, man. But getting back to this, the guy that's obviously the developer that's making this, guy, lady, non-gender specific, whatever, they're obviously very fond of Sonic Generations, and they've made a right good fucking whack at getting the physics right, man. And it's a right gallant attempt, man, at doing it. They've incorporated a lot of stuff in here that is even taking stuff further than what's in Generations. For instance, in the classic part, if you go the wee secret route he's made here, I quite like that, he's made a wee secret bit, you can actually get a shield that lets you do the double jump for Sonic 3 Knuckles, you know, the one that gives you that wee extra couple of millimetres attack. You press jump twice.
Is that in the classic level?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
So you can do a double jump, that wee, and it makes a noise, that wee extra bit of move. So he's incorporated all that. That's not in Generations. I also like the way his interpretation of the, as I was talking about, the dash, when you sort of slide along the floor. His interpretation of that is quite good. You can actually kind of feel it in the keys. When I've always said that's one of the best things about 2D games, when you can feel the crunch of your actions in the keys, where it's psychological or not. So there, the developers definitely put a marker down as to where they want to take the game, and do you know what? I can see their love for Sonic Generations shining through, man, and that's what Sonic fan games are all about. This guy obviously loves Sonic Generations, and he's put it all into this, and it's oozing out it. I can't wait to play a more kind of finished version of it, maybe next year or whenever he does release it. So well done, man. But honestly, well done. Really good.
Definitely. I mean, it's I think because the kind of best ones of these games, they kind of you understand what makes the originals tick, what was actually recapture a wee bit of the magic about them, and trying to take that forward and expand upon it. And you know, making a kind of like a proper 3D game in Unity is like no easy task.
I can imagine. Aye. Oh fuck, aye. Well beyond my capabilities, but which is none.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it in the future. You know, seeing some actual kind of realised 3D levels and that might be something quite special. So Sonic Project Generations for you.
Definitely a lot of love, a lot of work's went into this, and well done, Biggest Leaf. Enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see what comes of this, man. Because fuck me, man, you're onto something.
Right, so we're going to be moving on to a delightful little arcade game called Junkyard Frog, which Mick's going to be taking us through.
Right, so we've got Junkyard Frog, made by the bold Selk Studios, or Selkie Studios. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's no Selkie as in the mythical Scottish creature. I think it might be Selk. So what you've got here is, as Mick said, you've got a kind of old school arcade style game. I've always been a wee bit of a sucker for these, what you might call like a kind of single screen game. You get one screen and then you complete your objective on that screen. You beat the one screen and then you go to like a next level, like Donkey Kong or Bubble Bobble or something like that. Do you know what I mean? You clear the one board and then you get to the next. It deals with a dead simple concept. You have the titular Junkyard Frog. He is on a platform above you, a wee bit like the man Donkey Kong himself.
He's taunting you.
He chucks rubbish at you, and basically you are a wee bin man or a Janny, I don't know, something along those lines. And
Worker in public sanitation.
Exactly, yes. You're one of the, you're a worker. And I hope he's unionised in that because he's got a tough old job. You've got basically 2 buttons, or 3 really. You can change direction and you can jump. All you're doing is jumping about and trying to collect rubbish that the frog spits out before it hits the ground. He will spit out different types of rubbish. Some of it will kind of bounce about and have a bit of momentum. As the levels go on, there are more types of rubbish you have to deal with. The tricky part in this is that there's constant movement. Your character will just always move. You are never stationary. So it can be a wee bit kind of unwieldy. You need to get quite good at kind of tapping left, right, if you want to keep them in the one place for too long. So what you've got here, on top of a really solid concept for, you don't need to see if you've got a simple idea and you can make it fun. You're away and running with an arcade game, do you know what I mean? Sometimes too high concept, adding in too many things, you end up with something worse. The first thing it jumped out to me with this one was, and I don't know how you feel about this, right? But because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't for me. You know the fake CRT scan lines?
Yes.
I was going to say that. Like, I've not quite decided where I land on it. For me, sometimes sometimes I like it. Sometimes I'm not sure if it fits. I think with this game, it did kind of work. Like, it kind of took the kind of simple pixel graphics to a bit of another level.
It's actually weirdly popular. Man. Let's see the CRT scan lines. Very rare you'll see like an old retro package or one of the minis without the option to put these.
And the minis all have different. The C64 minis get fucking like 8 different CRT options you can put on it. It's got EU ones and
love that
American
shit.
Ones and all that. People are really into it. Junkyard Frog has. It does it well, right? But you can tell it's almost like an enhanced version of it. You know how like 80s nostalgia, like you set out to make fucking Stranger Things. Those guys that fucking made that weren't even kicking about in the 80s. They're just making it with an idea of what the 80s was.
I can idealise sort of hyper-real version of the 1980s. I think that's what this is, because like...
Well, I didn't dislike the CRT filter. It got me into the mindset that I was, fucking playing like an 80s arcade game or...
I think that's what it does, yeah. It's like, okay, this is what this is about. Yeah, you're in the arcade, you're putting coins into this thing. It kind of paints that picture in your mind as soon as you turn the thing on.
The graphics out of this in general are really fucking quite charming. Again, it probably looks a wee bit better than an 80s arcade game, but it gives you the sense of it quite well. You know, like the movie Wreck-It Ralph or something like that.
Oh yeah.
That gives you the impression of, but if you actually compared it, you'd be like, no, hang on a minute, their graphics are better. They've got more colours. Yeah. Exactly. So the presentation in Junkyard Frog is lovely. In particular, I liked the sound design. Mick, I know you were saying that you found the background music a wee bit grating.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I really didn't like the background music, and that's my one criticism. That the melody that played in the background, I don't know, it didn't flow nicely to me at all. And it's the same melody, but played on it's always the same melody played on different instruments. It just keeps changing between different instrument sounds. But the sound effects though, I did like that was very kind of nailed. You nailed the kind of 80s sort of sound design there.
The sound effects they fucking nailed, I reckon. I quite liked the kind of manic background tune. I can see how it would get a wee bit grating or obnoxious, but it kind of, for me, added to the fucking sense of anxiety of especially when you get to the later levels, man. That frog's a bastard, and you got all worked up trying to fucking do it.
You end up hating the frog, man. Yeah, like the way he laughs at you. You know, like the wee dog in Duck Hunt where he laughs at you when you miss him. I had the same kind of relationship with the frog.
See, I had this in my notes as well. The bold frog, when you get beat, he will have a wee fucking chuckle at you. I think Donkey Kong might do that as well, and obviously the dog in Duck Hunt, as you said. It really gets you fired up. It makes you go, fuck you, I'm trying again.
What's the script to this game? What's the gameplay? Because I know it's like an arcade style game, isn't it? It's like...
It's a simple concept, picking up the rubbish as Mick described. The trick to it is that all the different types of rubbish behave in different ways. Yeah. You might have a few of them on the screen at the same time. They're kind of bouncing in different ways or doing different things when they hit the platformers. So in your head, you've got to kind of be tracking where they're going, like where each one's going, what it's bouncing off of, which one's going to hit the ground first. And you're doing all this in the kind of back of your head while you're playing, trying to figure out where you need to go next.
So you have scrunched up balls of paper, they bounce about the place, they can hit off the wall and they bounce off the ground and that. Banana peels stay stuck to the ground and will move along down the platforms until eventually they hit the ground. If you let 3 pieces of rubbish hit the ground, you're dead. But you can get diamonds. If the frog chucks a diamond out, it gives you an extra try. Basically that you can get health back basically by picking up diamonds.
That's quite interesting.
It's a great kind of just, 80s arcade concept. The one it reminded me of was, do you know the original Mario Brothers?
Yes.
Like the arcade one.
Fucking with the turtles in the sewer.
Yeah, I definitely get those kind of vibes from it.
What I would say about this one, and here's how I can recommend it, right? I knew that this was a wee bit good and that it got under my skin a wee bit because the other day I was in work. And when I say in work, fucking working for him, sitting at my home desk because that's what working is at the minute. And I found myself thinking, "Fuck this, man! I'm going to sack this a bit and go and play Junkyard Frog for about 15 minutes. I reckon I can beat level 6." And I did. It kept me off my actual job, which is the high praise for a game indeed. So well done, Junkyard Frog. Check it out at Sage 2021.
Yeah, it's a game that can ruin your life. So
perfect flash game, isn't it? It's like all flash games. I don't think you get flash games anymore, do you? This is a perfect example of a very addictive kind of flash style game, man. Fucking
aye, you can play it. In fact, you can play it in your browser as well as a bonus.
Aye.
Bring back Newgrounds. R.I.P.
Aye.
So the next one I'm going to be covering this is possibly going to take a bit of explaining because I was kind of mystified when Andy sent me the description of this game and its title, but I'll do my best here. This one is going to be called Siobon Action Nostalg, and apologies if I'm not pronouncing that right. I'm definitely not pronouncing that right. How to describe this game? This is a meta fan game of sorts. It's a fan game of a fan game. So I need to do a wee bit of research here. I'm definitely aging myself here, but so Siobon Action was a game developed in I think 2007 by a Japanese kind of indie programmer, and what it is a kind of like a kind of parody platformer game based on Super Mario. I think these games are called Masocore games.
Is it like a Kaizo type thing, or like an I want to be the guy type thing?
Exactly.
Is that really punishing?
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah, I Want to Be the Guy was the one that I thought about. These kind of like platformers that are kind of like really difficult and unfair for the sake of being difficult and unfair, to the point where it's like quite funny. Like like it's a game that trolls you. Suobon Action took the kind of principles of Mario, but kind of like subverted them just to make them kind of like really unfair. Suobon Action Nostalgia is a fan game of that, basically like taking the ideas of that and expanded on them. I've not played the original, unfortunately, so I can't really compare how it is in terms of what it takes from the original and what it expands on, and how good it is a kind of like a fan game of it. But I can give you my own kind of impression of it, just like, as a standalone thing.
It does give you a warning at the start, to be fair. Is this game is going to pull your pisser?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I think, I think it takes a certain person to maybe enjoy and love this game. A masochist, you might say. So yeah, the basic structure of a level in this is that you'll come into it thinking, right, you'll see the kind of Mario-esque level in the backgrounds, and you're like, right, Mario is the kind of, it's the lingua franca of platformers. Like, it's a kind of, Mario at this point is almost a kind of like the Bible. It's like, so much of literature like references it. You're expected to kind of have a kind of working knowledge of it. All that kind of like, a lot of sayings and stuff we have come from it. It's the same way that a lot of platforming tropes, almost all of them, come from Mario. So this game knows that you know these things, and it uses it to completely take the piss out of you, subvert your expectations. So there's basically like every turn there's some sort of trap, some sort of like the game does something horrible to you. The thing that it loves doing the most is if you're jumping over a big gap, then all of a sudden a question mark block will appear above your head. It will just appear out of nowhere. You'll bounce off of that block and you'll fall into a pit to your death. So you learn to like basically not trust any gap in front of you, because it's going to turn into some sort of trap and like fuck you over. At least the first kind of 10 times that happens, you'll probably bust out laughing, like just at how fucking harsh it is.
This game trolls you to a point where, how you press Alt and F4 to end the game? Press Alt and F4 during this game, it
makes
goes
it
full
bigger.
screen.
I know, that just blew my mind. I love that detail.
So I've played a few of this style of game where you start off and you're presented with a very Mario looking level, and then you try and collect a coin. Oh, the fucking coins kill you. Oh, what? No, you're supposed to run into the spikes. That gives you more points. What? Now, this being a kind of nostalgic commentary on that, does it try to fucking re-subvert that in any way? Like, does it try to turn anything back on its head and play with your fucking expectations even more?
I mean, like, as I say, I've not played the original game, so that there's possibly a few things where you need to be familiar with Suobon Action, or Mario from Hell, or Cat Mario, as it's also known as.
Okay.
So there might well be, but I was purely kind of looking at it from the point of view of like Mario. Like, for example, the kind of horizontal tubes that take you to the underground level. In the second level, you have one of those horizontal tubes, and you walk into it, and then it just instantly launches you out the other side and kills you instantly. And then when you do get underground, you pick up the power-up that makes you into Bigger Mario, and then Bigger Mario is too heavy, and he falls through the ground. He collapses all the tiles underneath him and dies instantly. But I think that the enjoyment of these games is kind of like, yes, it's pretty funny, but it's not necessarily unfair. Like, the traps always happen at the same time at every level. Nothing is actually random.
Well, the game plays by its own rules.
Yes, it is predictable, like, up to a point. Like, if you just have enough trial and error, you can get through the levels. I did manage to get through one or two of them, but I don't think I'm necessarily enough of a masochist to like truly love this type of game. But I mean, it made me laugh quite a lot, which I think is probably what it was trying to go for.
I like the wee cat thing you play as well. It looks cool.
Yeah, he looks like that. Yeah, like I think it was a Sony mascot for a while, that Toro Inui or whatever he's called. Yeah, that wee kind of cute black and white cat thing. And I liked how he made an appearance in the intro in the Sage splash screen as well. But yeah, the game's pretty well done. I don't think I could recommend it to everyone. As I said, it's definitely a Marmite type of experience. But you might be able to enjoy it. Graphics are good. You know the kind of blue blocks with the orange speaker that you jump into in Super Mario World. It tells you what the level's about. It tells you about the story. They become like increasingly nonsensical as you get through each level, getting you like really useless advice or like weird diatribes. I like that as well, and the music is great. The intro music is incredible. That's a very, very Dynamite Heady-esque sort of mad carnival tune, which I'll demonstrate a little bit of.
It's a game that literally takes the piss out you, you know, and it's I quite like that idea.
Well, a big part of life in Scotland is having the piss ripped out you. Do you know what I mean? If you couldn't wear jeans on a wearing your own clothes day at school, it was a wee bit too wide, or people would have called you flares all day or whatever. Do you know what I mean? People, strangers will make fun of you here. Do you know
We've
what I
even
mean?
got a song that takes the piss out of our own dress. Donald, where's your trousers? You know what I mean? We take the piss out of ourselves.
Yeah, I think you've maybe stumbled upon a kind of wider point here. Like, maybe did I enjoy this because of my own cultural background? As an American going to hate this game, like, does it appeal to a kind of maybe a certain sense of humour that only certain cultures have? I don't know. I'm now asking myself all these questions. So yeah, now I definitely don't know if I can recommend it to our listeners. Like,
I don't know.
No offence, Americans, but I think you take yourselves too seriously to properly appreciate this one. Leave it to the professionals.
Right, so the next game we have is the only ROM hack on our list, which is quite an interesting proposition. So Andy's going to be talking about, what is this one called? Tales 64, or what's the full title?
So this one's called Tales Revamped 64.
Right.
And it's ROM hacking's always been like sort of prominent. There's always been like two branches of fan gaming scene. There's been like the hackers, the ROM hackers, and there's been the people that create their stuff on like click team programs and various.
Yeah, it's like the folk that want to create like a Sonic game from the ground up versus folk that are their basis is the original ROMs of, you know, Sonic 2 or whatever, but kind of modifying that and changing sprites and music and levels and stuff like that. Those were definitely kind of two parallel streams at the time when we were playing games, and that's only continued.
If you're going to do a ROM hack, then obviously the ROM that you're hacking is going to be a serious influence in the eventual product, and you can see that with Tales. I don't know if it's Tales 64 Revamped or Tales Revamped 64. Sorry,
the typography of the title didn't make it that clear.
This is made by a developer called Legany 64, and he had me won over within about 2 seconds, because you know how at the start of Mario 64 when he goes, "It's a wee Mario." Well,
yeah,
I don't know if this is Legany 64's work or whatever, but yeah, it goes, "Hello, it's a me, a Tails."
Quite like that.
I was sold right away, man. So you're flung into like the hub world of Mario 64 where you can see the castle and all that. You don't get the kind of in the first bit of lingo about Peach is lost and all that, or Princess. Is it Princess Peach?
Aye, the letter.
Is it Princess Peach, or is it the other one?
She's made them a cake and that.
Aye, you don't get that. So that's the first thing I'm thinking. Right, cool. He's made a wee modification here. Maybe we're going to get something different instead of just Mario 64 with Tails in it. You know, I thought maybe we were going to get like Knuckles and Sonic 2 type of thing. But did you catch the stuff I was saying about the model, Mick? No, in the adventure model.
You were trying to work out what one it was,
okay, so
and you said it was Tails doll from Sonic R.
The most cursed of all 3D models.
So what I wanted to get across was I don't want to say that he's ripped the Sonic Adventure model, right out of the game, either 1 or 2, into this. But I think he's used it as perhaps an influence to create a kind of a model that will work on 64 software, Nintendo 64 software. Sort of hardware, sorry. So he's trying to create a model that will he'll be able to like, animate and be able to like, put on screen with a decent frame rate on the hardware that he's working with, essentially.
See, ROM hacking is a complete like black art to me. Like I've got no idea where you would even begin. Like how can you take a compiled sort of like ROM and turn it into film? It's like being asked to make like a new season, a Seinfeld, but you've not got a studio or actors. You've just got like all the VHS tapes, and you've got to fucking like cut them up and fucking draw things on them to make it do something different. Like I don't know. I can't comment on what like how good a technical achievement this is, because to me like it's always a fucking mind blowing technical feat making one of these.
It's fundamentals. It's like taking a big piece of ready made Lego and smashing it on a flare in it, and then just rebuilding it. It's kind of
trying to reconstruct.
But you don't need to take all the parts out. You can just take like certain parts and smash certain parts and keep other bits and stuff.
So the model is kind of the Tails model is kind of well integrated and animated and, fits in well with Mario 64. Like the gameplay has anything changed about the gameplay of Mario 64?
I'm just going to get into that. Right, okay, so you know how in Mario 64, in the hub world, once you go into the castle, you collect stars to get various paintings, which you can jump through and that initiates the levels. Well, what you notice when you're jumping through the first level in Tails 64 Revamped, or Tails Revamped 64, is that one of the paintings is done in the style of Green Hill Zone. Like it was a wee thing that you'd normally get in a level select of a Sonic game. And I thought that this game was going to be much in the vein of kind of Knuckles and Sonic 2, where it was just going to be like pasted in, like Tails was going to be pasted in Mario 64. But no, Legacy's 64's trying to create his own level here, man, in the style of Green Hill Zone. It looks like Green Hill Zone.
That's pretty cool. And I noticed that from your screenshot you sent, they've got the chain chomp enemies for Mario 64. So there's still kind of Mario 64 enemies and features in the level.
So I think the first level in Mario 64, got to fight a big bomb at the top of the hill. Essentially, it's a level where you're climbing a mountain on the perimeter of the mountain to get to the top. So you're essentially doing that here, but the assets are all moved about. But you've got certain things in the game that are from Mario 64, like the enemies. The enemies are all Mario enemies. Tails has got like a wee punch attack and stuff like that you can use. But it does have what the developer seems to have worked on here is like Tails' movement. Like he's incorporated the triple jump that Mario has in Mario 64, but he's incorporated his own movement into the Tails model. So there's a wee bit of acrobatics, there's a wee bit of incorporating his tails to kind of, when he comes back down for the third part of the double jump, his tails start going as if he's flying. It makes him come to the ground a wee bit slower than normal gravity, stuff like that. As far as like the game goes, it's a A to B type of thing, like completing a level. I got as far as the top of the mountain, and then I couldn't figure out where to go after that. There's like, as you said, a big chompy guy. What's his name? Mr. Chomp?
Chain Chomp.
Chain Chomp. So he always scares the shit out of you, man, right? Doesn't matter if you're playing ROM hacks, whatever. He's still fucking terrifying, right? But once you get past him, there's a couple more enemies. There's a tree. He's went to the effort of creating scenarios where Tails can actually climb a tree, which I think Mario could do as well. So
yeah, this is pretty much just all stuff that Mario can do in Mario 64 and the Bob on Battlefield for. Yeah, and then you run up the hill and you come to the chain chomp. I'm just sitting thinking, I've played fucking Mario 64 a million times.
I think you might have gotten more out of this of you if you'd played Mario 64 recently. You could figure out like what bits were in the original and weren't they?
It's not. I think he's moved some stuff about though. In the first level, it's like it's not the first level for Mario 64. He's made it more Sonic style. And like there's platforms you've got to jump on essentially, and you've got to work out how. But you've got to work out from a Sonic point of view, the jump rather than a Mario point of view. I know that sounds weird, but the first bit feels like a Sonic game rather than a Mario game. The way the levels are laid out.
Has the game changed? Has your mindset simply changed because you're looking at Tails and you're not looking at Mario, and all your cultural references have like gone askew, and you're back in your bedroom in the 90s playing Sonic? Who can possibly tell? But I guess there's definitely like potential for in the future. You've got your kind of Tails model in there. Maybe introduce some of his moveset. Maybe kind of remix the levels in a kind of more Sonic style in that. I think it could have some good potential.
Definitely.
Right, so the next game is Code Bunny, and who better to play this game than an owner and a lover of pet rabbits, Mr. McClockerty.
Yep, so we've got Code Bunny. This one is made by... It's actually... I don't know where specifically in Latin America, but their bio said a Latin America-based dev team called Seventh Star Soft. So this is a kind of, I guess you would call it a retro-style action platformer. It's got retro-inspired graphics, but if you picture something, you know, a wee bit like Shovel Knight or Celeste or something like that, where you've got the graphics, but they're kind of turned up to 11, do you know what I mean? They look fucking cracking.
I would kind of put it somewhere between like the original Mega Man and Mega Man X. Definitely a lot of Mega Man inspiration to it in my eyes.
Aye.
One of the things off the bat that I really enjoyed about this, which as Mick pointed out, I am a rabbit owner. Shout out to Smudgy the Rabbit. Since Bugs Bunny, right? Your cartoon rabbits always have fucking erect ears, right? Lop-eared bunnies are woefully underrepresented. But one of the characters in this is a lop-eared rabbit.
Right.
So you've got Axel. He's got ears that come down rather than sticking up. I enjoyed that. Basically with this, as Mick pointed out, you've got Mega Man-inspired levels. You're going from A to B, and there's enemies to get around. The interesting points are in the power-ups. And as I mentioned there in my wee spiel about how I like ears and rabbits, fucking weirdo, you've got two different characters that you can play as who actually have quite fucking wildly different playing styles. You've got Axel and you've got Hazel. I don't know, did you find that you had a preference when you ended up playing it, Mick?
So Axel's the green one, is that right?
Aye, Axel's the, I guess, the guy rabbit, and Hazel's the lassie. Axel, I kind of found a wee bit like the easy mode character, if you will.
Right.
I think his moveset was a wee bit more standard.
Hazel had the kind of lock-on ability, is that right?
So Hazel could shoot things with an arrow, and then if you press shift, you did this kind of, lock-on attack. And she also has this karma meter, which you can build up, which I'll talk about a wee bit more in a second. But yeah, Axel, as I said, I found to be the kind of more easy mode character. He had a kind of glide attack.
I like the choice of the two characters, both quite distinct movesets. Well, the thing about like they're definitely quite kind of well distinguished from each other. The game plays quite differently when you're playing as both. What I really liked is just in general, the presentation in this game is really good. But I liked how much you could just tell about the characters and their personalities purely from their animation. Like Axel's very like kind of carefree and has a very kind of acrobatic sort of like appearance when they run. They kind of have like little pirouettes and spins and stuff like that. Whereas Hazel kind of charges left and right and has got quite hard sort of determined look about them. It just those wee details. It makes them feel very different. Kind of both kind of counterparts to each other.
You don't fuck about with Hazel.
Aye, exactly. We kind of said that Mega Man's a definite reference point. It's the combat's more kind of melee. There's not really guns as such, and it just felt really good. You know, Andy likes a good kind of crunch when you punch someone, or like a kind of good kind of responsive feedback. Like you definitely get that when you're chaining combos together and kind of fighting enemies and stuff like that. It just feels really satisfying.
Yeah, good kind of blend of styles of game there. You've got a wee bit of melee combat when you're dealing with enemies, as you say, and the platforming's nothing to sniff at either. These are quite fucking well designed levels. I'm guessing this is still quite an early build. You've got 2 levels to play around with, and you've got 2 bosses. So although it's quite a short demo, as I say, you do get fucking a decent amount of replayability out of this one, just from switching up characters and playing through it as either of them. I actually found myself replaying it as well and trying to get better ranks. This also it also has the platform thing, or your kind of Sonic Adventure thing where you get a rank at the end of the level.
Yes.
I was mostly getting C's when I first played through it, but I got a couple of B's and A's when I was fucking about with it earlier.
Well done.
But yeah, the presentation, as I said, is fucking top notch, and I like the tunes on this one as well. Particularly, I found I went and made a cup of coffee or something like that, and I ended up leaving just a small thing on the. I think it's either the menu tune or if character select has a different tune. I had ended up leaving that on in the background earlier, and then I kind of paused and I didn't do anything because I was just like, "This is a fucking class wee tune." So I have a bit of that just now because it's catchy and good.
Sounds fucking class, to be honest, man. Sounds well done.
I really enjoyed this one, to be honest. This one's kind of one of my top picks coming out of this episode. I think that the kind of level of polish is top notch. It's a very full featured, even though it's kind of quite early, inspired by kind of like the kind of look and feel of Mega Man, which I've always loved, but with its own kind of spin on it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, obviously people who are looking forward to Sage, who have watched the trailer, I'm guessing this one has probably already caught a couple of people's eye. I believe the hype. This is definitely one to check out. And it's also one fucking down the line, a finished build of it, you could comfortably see on your Nintendo eShop, or as one of the indie games that you could play on Xbox or PS4 or whatever the fuck. I could definitely see it being up there with
Katana Zero,
something like
something like that. Kind of looks.
Yeah, if this one turned up on like Kickstarter or something, I would definitely be chugging a few dollars its way.
A wee bit of beautiful Joe, isn't it? A wee tiny bit.
I mean, 10 different people could play this and probably get 10 different things out of it. Like, for instance, the ability with Hazel I was talking about, I ended up playing as Hazel Mare, even though, actually, she's got pointy ears, and I was just saying that I like Lockbeard bunnies better. I just liked Hazel's control system better. So she is, as I said, Axel I found to be a kind of easy mode character, whereas Hazel, you need to be a wee bit more on point. She's a kind of risk-reward character, which you don't see in platformers that much.
No, not really.
And what I mean by that is, so when she attacks an enemy, you have a karma meter that builds up, a bit like something out of a fighting game, actually, where the more times you hit an enemy, a karma meter builds up and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the more that karma meter builds up, the more damage you do. But if your karma's currently really high, also, if somebody hits you, you take a fucking pure badging. If it's up at like 20, one hit is going to fucking just off you like that.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And obviously, when it's at so you do far more damage, but you also take far more damage. So it was just interesting to. Again, as I say that, I ended up replaying it a couple of times, and one of the things that I did was consciously try to build up as much karma as I could to see if I could just like one-shot everything or, die in one hit and things like that. I just enjoyed playing about with this. It's a thorough recommendation to check out. I don't really have much more to say about this one other than that it's a bit of a gem and I can see it going places.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's kind of strong recommendation, I think, from all of us there.
Nice. Right, before we go ahead, is it really a Sagecast? I mean, is it really a Sagecast if there's no door into summer?
Fuck it. Why not?
Let's have door into summer.
It's a song for Knuckles Chaotix.
Oh, okay.
Right. Now that we've played that, please do not go into another long sort of like diatribe about Knuckles Chaotix and its kind of its flaws and benefits. We've already done like about 3 episodes worth of content there.
Oh, we'll save you.
If listeners really do want to hear our opinions on Knuckles Chaotix, yeah, look through our back catalogue. You won't be hearing it here. Right, so the next game we're looking at is a bumper, a fucking fan game, a massive undertaking by any stretch of the imagination. This is Battlecross Fever.
Christ, aye.
So Battlecross Fever is, I think, probably of the games we've covered,
Largest by a country.
has the biggest, the largest number of personnel working on it. You've got artists, games designers, fucking voice actors, even very, very systems programmers, all working together to take on this kind of massive project. What it is I suppose you could kind of call it like a fan game equivalent of Super Smash Bros. Or like a kind of arena 3D fighting game where you've flung in like kind of characters from all different kind of gaming franchises, anime, kind of all different properties that you can choose, up to 18 players playing at the same time, either in local co-op or online, although fuck knows how you do 18 player local co-op. And yeah, get them in an arena and kick 7 shades of shit out of each other. This seems to have its roots in, and I'm not sure if any of you remember this from back in the day, but did you ever play in those Mugen games? Or
Yes.
Mugen?
Yes.
Which was...
Yeah, I used to mess about
tunnels
with
of
that
OCs all fighting each other.
Aye, exactly. So, like, you could download this kind of framework for making fighting games, and it was meant, to be like you're going to create like the next fucking King of Fighters or Street Fighter. But what it usually was like one person would create like Mega Man as a character, and somebody else would create Shadow the Hedgehog.
Aye.
And you download all your favourite characters and fucking plug them into one game, wildly unbalanced, and get them fighting each other and Goku and stuff like that. This is kind of this concept taken to the stratosphere. You've got like a very wide selection of characters from various different franchises, with more to come. Some of the ones in the demo are still works in progress. But you've got a lot of Sonic characters: Sonic, Tails, Shadow, Knuckles. You've got Link for The Legend of Zelda. You've got Nero from Devil May Cry. Got a bunch of anime characters that I'm sadly not that familiar with, and of course you've got Goku, Vegeta, some of even the newer Dragon Ball Z characters. They've all got their own kind of movesets and kind of fighting, quite deep fighting movesets, projectiles and stuff like that. And you're fighting each other in these big 3D arenas. What I liked about the kind of the presentation is great. Is that the level of polish in this is pretty unreal. You've got kind of a load of 3 stages taken from various properties, and they're not just kind of static levels like some of the more interesting Smash Brothers levels. A lot of the levels are quite kind of dynamic. So the one that comes to mind from Super Smash Bros. Melee, like the F-Zero level where the camera's kind of panning around, and then when you get to the kind of bottom part of the level, like cars are coming in from the background and the foreground and hitting you as an obstacle. Or you've got the what was the other level where the camera's moving from left to right, and like you end up on an airship at one point. Like the level kind of moves around about you. Some of the levels in this game are kind of are doing that. You've got a level based on Phantasy Star Online, obviously a fucking
Classic.
big favourite of Andy and the rest of us. And in that arena, you're kind of fighting each other in the kind of the lobby of the spaceship, but you can jump through a portal, and then the portal will start taking you to the various levels of Phantasy Star Online. So I can enjoy
That's
that.
so fucking cool, man.
That aspect of it. So yeah, I turned this on. I think if you know me, you'll possibly know who I chose first, but that was Zero for Mega Man.
Oh, your designated man.
Your fancy man.
Yeah, my main man, my main man Zero, and I decided to fight Tails, just because I was.
Get off this fucking pod.
I don't know. You can read into that what you will, but I just I felt like beating up Tails.
I'm pure boring, man. I've just went Goku. Fucking.
That is interesting because you have been called Tails before. He's the techie one.
Yeah, thanks Sigmund Freud.
Some self-loathing, perhaps.
Boy, so he's Tails, I'm Knuckles.
When you're the Tails, but you want to be the
That makes
Zero.
quarter to Sonic.
Makes Charmy B, of course.
Can maybe. That's right, aye.
I
Definitely
don't
not.
know, but with my lockdown bod, maybe Big the Cat.
Aye, well, I was thinking that. Like, after lockdown, I need to change my name to Heavy.
At least it's not Bomb.
Oh, fuck, man. I used to reset it when fucking Bomb. See, how it was like a tombola? I used to fucking turn it off and I get Bomb. Like, pure rage. Just get no redeeming features. Anyways.
It's enough Knuckles chaotix. I can't follow the presentation of this game. You've got like what seems to be a bunch of kind of like custom made sprites for all the characters. Like none of them, as far as I can tell, have been ripped from other games necessarily. And even like their interpretations of the characters are not always the standard ones. Like the Zero has his kind of outfit from the Mega Man Zero games as opposed to these classic Mega Man X ones. Even when you go Link, like Link has a moveset which is kind of based off of Majora's Mask. You can do the various attacks that will turn you into a Deku Scrub or like a Goron or whatever, which I quite enjoyed as well. So it seems like they've put a bit of thought into it, you know, more so than these kind of Mugen games had, which were like quite often just plain sprite and move rips from other games.
I like that because Majora's Mask is obviously the best Zelda.
I'll leave that one. That could be a really long discussion as well. And yeah, there's these kind of interesting dynamic levels. One that Andy would love based on City Escape, where you're kind of like literally escaping the city while also battering fuck out of Goku and Vegeta and the like.
Nice. That sounds like just pure spunk. Personified, man.
Yeah, there's voice acting. Like people have added recorded custom voice acting to characters. There's a kind of heavy metal soundtrack that I really enjoyed, although I'm not sure how much of that is like original recordings and how much of it is ripped from other games. But it's just a pretty impressive endeavour, to be honest. The amount of effort that's gone into it from like a whole kind of wide array of creators, and particularly the fact that there's no chance in hell that anyone will ever make money from this game, because like there'll be an army of lawyers from Bandai Namco and Nintendo and Sega, like
Party poopers, man.
knocking down the doors.
Sega are quite good so long as you're not making money off them. But at Nintendo, they'll come down on you like a fucking ton of bricks, man.
Yeah, I mean, we're biased in this podcast, but it's another example of like Nintendo's villainy. Like they protect their IP with a fucking like complete iron. They've got an iron grip on that stuff.
Aye, but like, see, the likes of something like this, when this is for all the 50 Shades fans out there who may be aware that started as a Twilight erotic fan fiction, and then it got that popular that they just changed the names and changed the setting and things like that. Maybe if this get popular enough, you could just change Goku's hair green and call him Gakko, and there you go. You've got a new character, and you can fire him into the game.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily what they want. I think when you get in political debates online, you always have someone saying like, the free market, it's amazing, you know, like people can, if they're given a monetary incentive, if they get the option to make loads of money off a project, then they're going to create all these amazing innovations. Whereas this game, I think, is the perfect sort of like refutation of that. Like, there's loads and loads of people putting their time and effort into this thing that will never sell, purely for the love of it, purely for the fucking dream. And,
It's a punk scene. It's a punk scene, man, or a rave scene. Like these countercultures, but it's like, fuck your system, you know? They don't want, it's all passion.
Exactly. People will always make art.
It's just strictly like anti-commercial, you know?
Aye.
Exactly.
Aye.
Yep.
You don't need the promise of being the next fucking Elon Musk to put your art out there.
Aye, if you think profit is the primary motivation for for making anything artistic.
You're doing it wrong.
You're a baby if you think those things. If you have the mindset that you need the market to do these things, you're a baby if you think that way.
Yeah.
Aye, you heard it here first. Probably not first, but you heard it here.
Aye, but I don't mind like the small capitalist, like the forum, right? Back in the 90s, but it was kind of a store. They used to sell like fucking tapes taped to the metro with just like a paper sleeve and stuff. That's alright. But it's when you start like fucking just doing it, like taking the soul out it, and just to make money, man, that's what really sucks.
I was just trying to get the comments section going. Fuck you, libertarians.
Right, well, on that fucking bombshell, we are going to be moving on to another highlight from me, I think. This one's called Ice Cream Float. So Andy Mac, take it away.
Oh, that's a cracker.
This is probably my favourite one, and I'm sorry to the other devs, but I really enjoyed this one.
Actually, before we start, we've got a special message from the developer of Ice Cream Float.
Oh, aye.
Going to tell us a little bit about this game and what inspired it. So yeah, take it away.
Hi, my name is Isaac Riley, and I'm the creator of Ice Cream Float, which is an indie game at Sage 2021, based off of a lot of the early black box NES titles, a lot of the first-party NES or Famicom games. It's a side-scrolling platformer where you play as Aisu, a little blue penguin girl, and she's on a quest to get all the ingredients she needs to make a sundae. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. These early games that I'm kind of taking a lot of influence from are seen as these awkward growing pains for the NES. They're somewhere between an arcade game and a home console game, and they're looked back on kind of as a curiosity, very simplistic. But I'm very fascinated by that era in the home console history, especially Nintendo's. And I wanted to make a game that just kind of recaptures that quaint, simplistic nature. And so I decided I wanted to make a little platforming game, and everybody makes platforming games, but I thought I could make something that stands out a little bit, at least aesthetically. Aisu can float, she can hover with her little wings, and that kind of gives her a little more control in the air. And you're just kind of going around stomping on enemies and getting items and the usual things that you do in a side-scroller. And other than that, it's just a one-world demo right now, and I hope that you enjoy playing it. I hope that everybody has a good time playing Ice Cream Float, and looking forward to seeing what is in store for it.
Isaac Riley's Ice Cream Float. Right, so this is, do you know what? It's my favourite one, and I know I said that already, but it's a neat, it's, right, and it's in the spirit, and its spirit, its soul, it's a neat bit platformer for the NES. It's got Mario controls, it's got the kind of Mario aesthetic. It's basically Mario, but it's not. It's Mario done
It's
Isaac's same
fucking
way.
balloon fight, mate. That
Is it balloon fight?
That movement mechanic and that intro screen, for me, balloon fight out its nut.
Right,
Actually,
right.
if you wanted to be simplistic about it, like when we're going with mixed game F, they'll be taking a load of influences, obviously. I would say it's a wee bit of a cross between Mario and balloon fight.
I mean, I would say, like, if you've got a kind of a passing familiarity with 8-bit games, you say to yourself, right, I'm going to make an 8-bit game. You're probably going to make Mario. Isaac really knows his 8-bit platformers, right? He's drawn from a kind of wealth of them. He knows what makes them tick, I think, and he's taken elements of a good few of these kind of classic games. So while there is elements of Mario in there, because there's obviously going to be, I think that does it a bit of a disservice, because I think it's trying to be like a kind of, like an unknown gem from that era, you know.
It's got a touch of Ice Climber about it as well.
Aye, all these classics.
I mean, these are games that have got the platform and kind of physics and jump and like even gravity, the distance between jumps. All right, sometimes there's a kind of a multitude of bottomless pits that I've got an issue with. But for a lot of games on 8-bit consoles, but that's just a personal preference. But this game does the best of like them games I mentioned, especially like Mario.
Definitely.
And like there's something really addictive that comes with a platforming game, especially these 8-bit ones, when the movement is so spot on. Because I mean, the intricacies in this game, are quite clear. You've got like a section on the first world. There's only one world these gave us, but on the first level of the first world, where the sort of the attention to detail in the platforming can be seen in, like, there's a section where you know Flappy Bird, the game Flappy Bird, when you've got to go through the gaps on the pipes at different levels.
Yeah, there's like a pillar above and below you, and then those kind of move up. The gap between them is the same size. I know what you mean.
Yep. So in order to land on these very small parts, the engine behind the moving parts of the game, it needs to be pretty spot on, because you're landing on maybe a square that's like an inch long, and you know what? At first it seems a bit daunting, but then you get that it's so well crafted that once you learn how to do it once, it's going to be consistent. Every time you get a similar kind of obstacle, so it's really consistent. And
yeah, no, I think it's kind of a great example of these kind of games. And these 8-bit platformers, they're very, very simple kind of games, but the devil's in the details. And I think Isaac Riley's really knows his stuff with these games,
definitely.
and he's got it tuned, fine tuned to a T, to such a state where it can be difficult, and because the foundations are so solid, it doesn't feel unfair.
Aye.
Yeah.
It's a consistency of the game that makes it addictive for me, and I find that in platformers, like, even right down to when you're jumping on a baddie, you get a wee bounce.
The thing that gave me a fucking, like, right fucking dunt of nostalgia playing this was you're playing World 1-1 for the first time, and you get to the end of a level, and then it brings up this bizarre wee screen where it asks you if you want to bet your fish. And it fired off a wee light bulb in my head, and I was like, old games used to do wee fucking things like that all the time. New games don't do things like that anymore.
Alex Kidd and the other
So
one.
there's a weird gambling mechanic.
What was it? Marvel? Remember Marvel Land? Marvel Land had that too. It's like wee games at the end of the year.
Well, like the rock, paper, scissors a wee bit, and fucking Alex Kidd and things like that.
Aye. And Adventures of Flink that I gave you that time, it was wrong game.
Oh, that classic, aye.
No, but oh man, right, okay. So we've bigged this game up to the high heaven, right? It deserves every bit of plaudit it gets. But let's talk about the new character here. Aizu, you're a charming, adorable little penguin girl. You've got a massive sweet tooth and you want to make a sundae. And you need ingredients to make a sundae. So in each level, you've got to try and retrieve your golden soft serve ice cream. So basically, it's just a charming wee...
What more do you need?
Original character that he's made. It talks about floating meters and stuff like that. I didn't really notice the floating meter. I noticed that was a mechanic that you had to use to get across wide jumps, but I didn't know there was a meter restricting you. So obviously you've got to collect the bits of ice cream to put your meter up.
It's next to your hearts. There's a bar that will tell you how long you can fly for.
Cool, man. He's got also profiled foes as well. This is something that a lot of Sonic fans do, I've noticed, and Mario fans.
I see. When you were mentioning like the that little blurb about Aisu there, this is from a notepad sort of doc that comes with the game, which serves as a kind of little manual. And even just reading the manual, that gave me the nostalgia for some of these old games. Like, although it's just a text file, you can imagine the way he's kind of written. Kind of quite sarcastically about all the different types of enemies in the story of the game. You can imagine and open up a box of an 8-bit platformer and reading the manual, seeing those little pictures of those enemies and reading those descriptions. Like that the whole kind of the writing there was just pitch perfect.
Built a lovely wee world here. That I like that. Like in the manual, you always had they didn't need to do it. It's not essential if you're playing a platformer, but it really adds a wee bit into it, because you know that your eyes are a charming wee adorable penguin girl, and you're just on a wee adventure. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Back in the day, if you got a game and you got it second hand and you only got the cartridge, sometimes you didn't know what the plot was. You need a fucking booklet.
Aye.
It's a vital part of the experience.
Sometimes it is, man.
Yes.
Sometimes it is. Especially on 8-bit games where you're fucking literally like a blob. But I think that Aizu is well drawn. I think it's very nice for a wee 8-bit thing. I mean, it looks a lot better than some of the Nintendo fucking 8-bit sprites.
I think some of the games we've talked about, before have a kind of this kind of like pseudo retro sort of look about them, kind of like Junkyard Frog and Code Bunny, but they both look great. You wouldn't see them run on a Super Nintendo or on a stand-up arcade cabinet. Like, it's not the limitations of the game of those consoles just wouldn't support these things. Whereas this game, from like the kind of resolution to the color palette, like all that stuff, it's like note perfect for the NHS, the NHS, fucking hell, supporter NHS. For the NES, you could definitely see it running there, and I think that's kind of what a fan game is all about. And we've not even mentioned the music, which is
well, I was going to say,
and that lovely kind of jaunty sort of shuffle to it, which is just I just can't get enough of.
Isaac explains in the document here that he provided that he's pulled all-nighters, working features, spent all his free time working on this project, making new songs. He's not done yet. He's very passionate about it, man. Man, listen, Isaac, I know you're going to be listening to this, but it shines through, mate. Whatever you're trying to put through in your work, the three of us have picked it up, and usually there's one is don't dislike something, but if three is I really enjoyed it, mate, and we love your work. Can't wait to play the full game when it comes out and everything else you do.
Yeah, no, absolutely, would totally echo that sentiment. Now, let's go on to the real reason we're doing this podcast, because we all know this is just an elaborate hype exercise for Caverns of the Molten God, developed by yours truly, Lost Cosmonaut.
Hey.
The reason for the season.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever happened to that Rex character?
Yeah, well, whatever happened to Rex, one half of Sly and Rex developers have not always visited Pokemon. I don't know. I don't think either of you two know either. Who could possibly tell? But you have both played a slightly earlier version than what is going to be its age. But what did you think about it? And you wanted to ask about it?
So, obviously, it kicks off quite cinematically. We see Pikachu stealing the Master Emerald. He leaves a piece of fur behind. No, I'm kidding. So, as I said with the last game, you would be doing a wee bit of a disservice to say it's this thing and that thing, and it feels fucking redundant because this term is so fucking overused. But you've made a bit of a Metroidvania here, haven't you, wouldn't you say?
I think if you want to sum it up in so many words, yeah, probably a Metroidvania. I'd say more Metroid than Vania to me. My influences came kind of more from the kind of older, kind of simpler side of that equation. So you're not going to have kind of Symphony of the Night style
No.
Leveling up or anything.
This was going to be basically my first question. So
yeah,
two influences that fucking slapped me in the face. It jumped right out at me when I was playing this. Are Metroid 1, the old school Nintendo Metroid on the NES,
yep.
And Joust, obviously, with the sprite and the way it controls. Was there anything else game-wise that you would say was an influence on this?
So I think that was really the inception of it. Like, I'd always loved the old arcade game Joust, where you're kind of on the back of this flying creature trying to knock other enemies off. Similar things while avoiding being killed yourself. Really simple mechanic. If you're higher than the other player, then you kill them. If they're higher than you, then they kill you. And I always thought just the way that character manoeuvred was really interesting, and I thought it was an idea that kind of was like sort of left along the wayside. One of these kind of games where you can't really see anything that was really influenced by it. Like in the future, it seemed like a bit of a kind of evolutionary dead end. But when I discovered it, obviously much later than it actually came out, I just thought it was really cool, and I thought it'd be something that'd be kind of interesting to expand on. So yeah, the idea was to have been kind of about in my head for quite a long time of combining that with a kind of a Metroid type game, where you, instead of just having like one single screen kind of arena stages, you'd be able to kind of move from screen to screen and kind of encounter different types of challenges, like, you know, navigation challenges or like fighting enemies and stuff like that. And kind of like Metroid, where you can kind of like go through and like gradually pick up new powers, unlock new sections and backtrack on things, was an obvious influence. I'm not super familiar with the original Metroid, to be honest. I'm kind of going off memory, but I think like I definitely loved a lot of games that have been inspired by it. A lot of kind of indie games I think were kind of out in my head around 2010 when I was first thinking of this.
You were big into that, was it Cave Story or something like that? I remember you always really liked.
Yeah, I think Cave Story is definitely an influence. And what I kind of found myself coming back to creating it was Super Meat Boy as well, where like the notion where you can have like quite kind of challenging levels and tough sort of really difficult levels, but
that you die and then instantly you get a retry. Just there's very little lag between dying and getting a retry. Is I think if Super Meat Boy proved one thing, it was that's the way to do these games. Yeah,
there's definitely been platformers that I've played where, you know, you can have quite a long stretch that you're really like breezing through, but one difficult bit that kills you and knocks you back to the start. So I kind of wanted like not to have that, and it gave me, as a kind of game designer, it gave me the sort of freedom to like, you know, make things that might be a bit of a pain in the ass, but if you keep kind of throwing yourself at it, you'll eventually figure it out.
I wanted to ask as well, I don't want to say too much about the storytelling in it, because I think it's quite nice for a player to discover that for themselves the first time, but just a game that I know we both quite liked is Austin Jorgensen or Dingaling's Lisa
Okay.
the Painful.
Yeah.
So originally when he set out to make that, he was making just a beat 'em up with a load of big fucking muscly like Fist of the North Star guys. He just basically wanted like Streets of Rage with big Mad Max guys kicking each other's head in. And then he said that he started thinking more and more like, well, what would a world like that be like? So did you thinking about what would a world be like where knights ride around in ostriches and battle for eternity? Like, what could cause this such a scenario to happen? What would this world be like? Did you have any kind of thoughts like that about the Joust universe that made you expand this out, or did that actually, not really like?
That is actually like disturbingly close to, I think, like how I came to this. Like, I think with a lot of these kind of old arcade games, they leave a lot to your imagination. In like Joust in particular is a very unusual world with, as you say, like knights riding on the back of ostriches. So yeah, like when you do get a kind of little bit of a story, like it's kind of, the idea is kind of sprung from a lot of like I was just, you know, drawing a lot of little sprites of like these kind of enemy knights and enemy creatures, and like, but then just really over-analysing and overthinking, like, what would make all of these things, you know, tick. Like, I wasn't, you know, drawing things with an idea of like a particular kind of fantasy or science fiction world in mind. I think a lot of these games back in the day, like, didn't really care for that distinction. But yeah, it kind of sprung from that. There was an idea that people were kind of like speculating about kind of Metroidvania games, and there was an article on Select Button or a forum thread on selectbutton.net years and years ago, and somebody came up with this idea of a type of game called an Icebergvania, and what that was like, basically it was just this kind of thought experiment, like, oh, imagine a game like this existed, and it was, if you imagine a game like a Metroidvania game, and you can get from A to B and complete it within, like, you know, a really short space of time, a couple of minutes. But like an iceberg, you know, you can only see the top of it, but there's like hidden depths that most players would never even see. Like, there's a wee passage.
Yeah.
You might get down this passage and you won't get one bonus room, you get a whole fucking other game worth of like bonus material that not all players would see. And that idea kind of stuck with me, and like the kind of structure of the game. I want it to be like not exactly like that, because that'd be like, you know, every developer's worst nightmare, creating all this stuff that no one's ever going to see. But I like this idea of kind of hidden depths where like you can approach the game on the surface level and just be like, okay, I'm a wee guy and I'm going to kill the final boss. But also, if you take a certain path, you can see other things. You can kind of interrogate things. You can be like, okay, why am I here? What am I doing this for? How does this world work? In the game kind of like allows you to, you know, to actually explore and interrogate that sort of stuff. So the way that the kind of story reveals itself to you, that's kind of how I wanted it to pan out. And also kind of like these kind of weird sort of like deep philosophical thoughts about like who's in charge of this like place that I'm invading, like, you know, the molten god, I'm calling it, like something with the power to do all these sort of things. They must be like so alien and so kind of non-human. Like, how could you possibly understand them?
You get the title. I mean, I don't know if you're planning on doing an opening crawl or anything when you've got a final version of the game, but I get the impression probably not, that you're quite deliberately not told much about your player character or the world or the molten god or anything like that. I mean, you're supposed to kind of find all of this out for yourself.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the idea. But I mean, you can probably approach it in terms of like, you can not be interested in that in the slightest, or you can be really interested in it. And depending on how you play, then you should be satisfied both ways.
Well, as I said, from playing the demo, you definitely managed to convey. So then again, I wonder if this is just because I know you as a person. But I mean, I played an earlier version of the game than what's going up at Sage. But as I said to you, and I think I mentioned on the last episode, I found myself bombing walls and bombing the flare, trying to look for extra hidden rooms. And I remember messaging you and being like, is there more rooms, or have I found everything? Like, what have you found? And then I told you were like, no, that's the whole demo. And I was going, that fucking cunt's lying to me. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find the extra room. I did. I played it for ages, trying to find a hidden room that I thought was...
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of what like drew me to like make it in that kind of Metroid sort of style. Like, you know, I always loved that about those games, and even things like A Link to the Past and stuff. You know, bombing walls, getting hidden kind of side things. You know, it kind of it lets you do that. It lets you kind of like have little hidden rewards, and kind of like your lust for exploration is sort of like kind of pays off. You only get like a little bit of that in the demo, but as I've been making further levels and kind of like further obstacles and power-ups and tools you can use, it's been quite fun to like think like, okay, how could a player use these in like unusual ways, and like how can I kind of like reward players for kind of thinking outside the box a little bit.
I like a game that will reward a curious player. There was a Twitter thread put up, I think yesterday actually, although I shouldn't date this. There was a Twitter thread put up recently from Josh Sawyer, who was talking about it being annoying if a game gives you the ability to walk behind a waterfall and then just puts nothing behind the waterfall, because you always, you want treasure or you want something there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
it's become a bit of a meme. That.
Yeah, I definitely like fucking being rewarded as a fucking curious player, which these games, and Metroidvania is such a crap name for them. It's so overdone. I mean, I'll throw something out there, and explore 'em up. I like, I like games that, I don't know, there's the thinking man's. I can't finish that thought.
Other kind of like exploration single screen platformers. Since we played Treasure Island Dizzy a couple of days ago, I keep comparing it in my head to that. I keep thinking like, do I have enough screens? And like, how many screens did Treasure Island Dizzy have? Right, I've got to have more than Treasure Island Dizzy, because that game came out about 30 years ago. Like, if I could have a bigger world than that, then I've done something right.
And finally, just the last thing I'm curious about is, obviously, knowing you make a lot of your own music, not just for video games, you know what I mean? You've made tracks in the past. So I'm not as curious about how you've made the music for the game, but I've never really known you to do art before. What have you been using to draw this? Like the nice kind of almost like, do you call that vector style? You know, when they explode and things like that, and it's all like asteroids or something like that.
Yeah, so like a lot of games we've kind of covered in this, there's a lot of games that I've tried to like recreate specific consoles, specific kind of like retro graphical styles. I've not gone for like a kind of pixel perfect like recreation of something on the NES, for example, although the music is like made in an NES tracker, so that would, those would be tunes you could hear on an NES. But the graphical style was a kind of a mishmash of all these. But I'm trying to have a kind of mishmash of like a lot of old school arcade games from the kind of period you would have played Jousting or even earlier, things like Robotron, Defender, that sort of thing. That was what was in my head when I was trying to create the graphics.
Yeah, the 80s, particularly early 80s influence really kind of shines through in the graphics, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. And I'm not like I'm not a skilled artist in the slightest. Like I kind of deliberately made the game quite low resolution because I would have to like draw less pixel sprites. But I've had a crack at sprites, and I've tried to develop the graphics kind of like Jeff Minter was a bit of an inspiration here. This is his approach, I think, where he's not much of an artist, but he loves kind of the kind of psychedelic L80s sort of like walls of like flashing primary colours and all that. He loves all that stuff. So I think I've tried to play with my strengths, and like anytime I can make something appear on the screen with code rather than me drawing things, I've kind of gone for that approach. So like Andy, you were saying you quite enjoyed the death effects and animations and stuff like that. That's one thing Game Maker's quite good at, is it's got this kind of particle engine. So you basically say like, you define how a bunch of these particles are going to behave, something like how it's going to change colour over time, how they're going to move, if they're going to be affected by gravity and sort of that. And then you can just say like, at a given point, just fire off a bunch of these particles. And that's like a really powerful engine. You can make it do a lot of things, like kind of, smoke and explosions and blood and all that stuff. So I've kind of had a few effects with that, and a few which are more about kind of drawing lines and various kind of lasers, stuff like that. Do some stuff with shaders, which I've kind of incorporated in the second level. I've probably mentioned my love for like Earthbound's mad psychedelic battle backgrounds that kind of warp and change colour and blur and stuff like that. So that was a kind of influence, and I've kind of incorporated a little bit of that as well. So yeah, I'm hoping it kind of all kind of gels together and has its own kind of unique look about it.
You definitely create an atmosphere with it. I mean, again, you can take this way, it's biased because we're friends or whatever, listener, but this is also fucking one to check out. It's something a wee bit unique and a wee bit special.
I was going to ask you about, right, okay, so I'm looking at the game here, and I can see like what you're talking about with Metroid. I can see what you're talking about with like the way the game's designed, and you mentioned your guy influenced you there about all the kind of primary colours flashing there, wasn't that? I can see that. But tell me this. I'm looking at the bat here, right? The wee baddie bat, and he has got so much character in him. Or somebody that can't draw, right? And it's very simple. You've got a wee flying bat going from side to side, but you've put like headlamps on him, man. It makes him look kind of scary and kind of, what do you call that, sinister. So what was you thinking when designing these baddies and shit, but bringing character to a game? Because these are things that jump out at me. Like I can see like you've got like kind of wasted beanstalks and stuff, as if they're not getting enough oxygen in this kind of planet. Is it Planet Zebos for Metroid? Kind of whatever it's called. Kind of vibe to it. So what was going on?
The little kind of plants and that.
So was there any kind of message you were trying to get across when you were creating the baddies in this game? But I know that some of them have like, got other mounts, different coloured mounts. So are they for the same like Starfleet as you or whatever? And they went hostile on your ass. And also, I like the kind of pastel kind of weapons. There's a bright green sword that you use, and baddies might use a bright red sword or something like that. What the fuck's going on here, man? How much acid did you take? And what's the story behind the baddies?
Well, I'm going to leave some of these things a mystery, right? Because, like, I think one of the things I quite like about kind of low res sort of pixel graphics, and I talked about this, not with pixels but with early 3D. Like when we were talking about Panzer Dragoon Saga, like for example, I said the low poly look worked for that game because you can be looking at things and going like, what the fuck even is that? Like you have to fill in the gaps with your own imagination. When I'm telling the story of the game, like I think I'm going to try and answer some of these questions, but some of them will be left a bit of a mystery, I think. But you know, a lot of this stuff I have put a bit of thought into, like, you know, why certain things are certain colours, why certain things appear in a certain way.
So what you're telling me, the bat looks like sinister. It is sinister. It wants to kill you, but it's from parts unknown, from no exact specified location. It's open-ended and interpretive to the player essentially. So you can bring something to this game as well as the game's going to bring something to you.
Yeah, exactly. Although one kind of small tidbit, when I was designing the sprites, particularly for the bat and the crab you'll see in the later level,
I like the bat.
I was definitely inspired by the bats can get you in this game.
Yes, it's a very famous joke in our part.
But I was definitely inspired by the sprites of Final Fantasy Adventure. I think the baddies in that game on the Game Boy with such kind of limited pixels are like the kind of gold standard for sort of expressive wee creatures.
It's called Mystic Quest here in Europe. Fucking get off this podcast.
Right, what this bit has got, oh man, I'm trying to pinpoint where you took it from, but there's a bit called oh for fuck's sake bit. It's a bit that kind of jumps out at me every time I play Cameron's Immortal God. You fall down this kind of, right, you know, a Metroid screen, right? You fall from the top and you kind of floatily fall down to the bottom, and I've got to avoid bats going from side to side. On the next screen, unannounced, is the fucking spikes, where you've got to like, really fucking become familiar with the movement to get past this kind of cunty bit. But I suppose it's a good thing in a way, because once you're past that bit, it's a kind of serves as a tutorial, doesn't it? For the rest of the game, because you've got to kind of intricate in how you're moving, get past that screen, and then from there you know like how many times to press up and stuff to get by a certain bit. So it might be like this cunty bit might be like an essential cunty bit. What was your thoughts when making that? Was it something similar?
So yeah, I've tried to kind of when I'm designing levels, I don't think level design is really my strong suit, but I'm definitely like inspired by Mega Man X's approach, where like everything in the first couple of levels is a lesson of some kind. Like I'm trying to, every time I introduce a new idea, introduce it in a kind of easy form to get you used to it, and then later on like ramp up the complexity. Like for example, the first time you see a baddie, you'll probably see one of them, and then in later levels you'll be hit with 2 of them and then 3 of them. It tries to introduce things like slowly to you, and then it'll maybe introduce two of these things at the same time, and you've got to deal with them both, that sort of thing. I will say that the spike tunnel bit is slightly easier in the new version of the demo, because I discovered a few bugs that meant you could die if you didn't really collide with them. So that maybe helps things.
Aye, I like that.
I did also want to have, like, you know, to put you into the mindset of like you are going to die a few times on each level, but you are going to respawn close by, so it's all right. Don't worry about it. Just keep persevering.
Aye. Well, I enjoyed the kind of mechanic you've got, how to kill enemies, and if you jump on them, it sort of gives you a wee boost up to the next bit type of thing. One thing that really jumps out at me at this game, which I think you've got to kind of look for it to get it. But I mean games like Night Trap, Mortal Kombat, right? I mean, Night Trap was just a game about stupid vampires that had a plastic gun that meant to suck out like plasma and all that. And Mortal Kombat was just meant to be a pure like funny like bam up game with tons of blood in it for like to get money off Wayne's. This game also has like kind of throwaway violence in it. Like when you die, you explode, blood explodes. How do you feel like fucking that type of thing would go down with like censorship in America and that? Do you think that fucking it possibly might trigger some people, like if you're trying to put it on like a Microsoft or Steam store or something like that, it might go, oh man, you need to change the colour of that blood. Like fucking boss shit, you know?
I never considered the potential of releasing the game in Germany. I'm hoping of so few pixels that it's not really a cause for concern. You can't really consider it particularly realistic. I was more trying to make something like Defender than I was making something like Mortal Kombat, but I'm glad you enjoyed the blood.
I loved it, man. I loved it. You get green blood. I love there was a game for the PlayStation 2. It was a launch title. It was called Fantavision. basically in Fantavision, you had to create your own firework display.
Fireworks. I remember that
You
one.
see a bit of that in your death animations, man. Your kind of, as Mick was talking about, the kind of scalar effect, with all the blood going everywhere and that kind of sphere. Quite cool, man. Quite cool. Quite like it. And it makes you go, when you get killed off one of these spikes or something, it makes you go, fuck! And it's like an elongated fuck, because the animation takes like 3 seconds, you know. It's quite good.
So, yeah, if you like Metroid and philosophy and blood, please check out Caverns of the Molten God.
Yes.
I hope you enjoy the demo. I think that is just about all we've really got time for. So, thanks for everyone's time, man. Yeah, I hope definitely check out some of these games we've mentioned. I hope the creators are satisfied with our views on them.
But just got to say thank you to all the developers that got in touch and were interested in doing this. We know these are your babies, and it was quite a big decision for you to get an early release and trusting us with your project. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and apologies for anyone we couldn't get to. We had to kind of narrow down the list of games. So we've another shout out to Voids and Vessels, shout out to Fetch the Ferret, and all the other amazing games that are available at Sage for you all to play now. Yeah,
unfortunately, with age, you find less time to fuck about on click and create, and you've got to spend more time looking after things like families and jobs and dogs and obligations and stuff like that. So we put everybody we could in, and if we missed you, we'll certainly look at doing you next year.
Aye, so enjoy your Sage, everyone, and if you've enjoyed what you've heard, if you've understood our accents, go to Anchor FM/Dynamite-Neddy, or you can find us on, and if you're anywhere you listen to your podcast, really, Spotify seems to be the main one, but yeah, Anchor pretty much fires your podcast out everywhere, so yeah, have a look for us, and we'll
sayonara,
see you next time.
Come and check out our booth in the main convention hall. We'll sell you cocaine as well.
Aye.
Yeah, the most beautiful booth babes.
If you gave an extra tenner, we'll wash the cocaine back with you with baking soda. We'll turn it into crack. Because we're from a place in Scotland that knows how to do that. We're actually quite proud of it.
Aye. Freebasing cocaine and retro games are the two things that we know how to do.
Bring your own spoon just for safety sakes.
Yep.
And we're at Pumpkin Hill. You ready? I ain't gon' let it get to me. I'm just gon' creep down in Pumpkin Hill. I got to find my lost piece. I know that it's here. I can sense it in my feet. The great emerald's power allows me to feel. I can't see a thing, but it's around somewhere. I'm gonna hold my head, cause I have no fear. This probably seems crazy, a graveyard theory. Our ghosts try to approach me and got leery. Ask him a question and he vanished in a second. I'm walking through valleys, crying pumpkins in the alley. Didn't seem happy, but they sure tried to get me. Had to back them up with a fist metal crackle. I'm hearing someone saying, you a chicken, don't be scared. It had to be the wind, cause nobody wasn't there. I searched and I searched as I climbed up the wall. And then I started to fly, I went in deeper. Let it get to me, I'm just gon' creep down Pumpkin Hill, I got to find my lost piece. I know that it's here, I sense it in my feet. The great emerald's power allows me to feel. I can't see a thing, but it's around somewhere. I gotta hold my head, I have no fear. It probably seems crazy, a graveyard theory. A ghost try to approach me, he got leery. Just gon' creep down in Pumpkin Hill. I got to find my lost piece. I know that it's here. I can sense it in my feet. The great emerald's power allows me to feel. I can't see a thing, but it's around somewhere. I'm gonna hold my head, cause I have no fear. This probably seems crazy, a graveyard theory. Our ghosts try to approach me and got leery. Ask him a question and he vanished in a second. I'm walking through valleys, crying pumpkins in the alley. Didn't seem happy, but they sure tried to get me. Had to back them up with a fist metal crackle. I'm hearing someone saying, you a chicken, don't be scared. It had to be the wind, cause nobody wasn't there. I searched and I searched as I climbed up the wall. And then I started to fly, I went in deeper. Let it get to me, I'm just gon' creep down Pumpkin Hill, I got to find my lost piece. I know that it's here, I sense it in my feet. The great emerald's power allows me to feel. I can't see a thing, but it's around somewhere. I gotta hold my head, I have no fear. It probably seems crazy, a graveyard theory. A ghost try to approach me, he